right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar room. My name is Mallory. I'm one of the implementation specialists here with WM Tech. I'm excited to join you guys today to talk about automation and automating your processes using the tools provided to you in SiteStacker. I've been told that this topic has been at the top of the list for wanted webinars, so I'm glad to have the space to talk with you all about how automation can be used to help you in your ministry. Today is the first episode of our new automation mini-series, and we're going to start off the series by talking through the basics of automation. So this will include all of the planning that you do before you even log into SiteStacker. And then once you're in SiteStacker, how you're going to start a new workflow, how you're going to use your workflow to gather information, and how you're going to make that information usable to your team. This is a training webinar, so we're going to go into some detail about how to set up some of these automation pieces. And then we're going to mix that in with examples of how the system can be used, just to kind of get you thinking through different possibilities. It's a creative process as well as a logical one, so there's a lot of things that we can do with SiteStacker. At the end of our talk, we'll have some time for Q&A, so be sure to post your questions during our conversation, and we'll follow up on those at the end. Also at the end, we're going to have a raffle. I'm a little jealous. Everyone that signed up for the webinar has a chance to win a package from Old Florida Coffee Company. It's my favorite coffee company in town. It's right down the street from us though, so I can grab something after this. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. So automating your process. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to think through your process and then how we can use SiteStacker to optimize and automate your process. Those are the two big main points that we're going to be hitting. And there's going to be a lot of information in between, so we'll cover as much as we can. So the first piece of bringing your process into SiteStacker and making it automated is to actually think through your process as it is right now. What you're doing is important. Your team is working hard to meet the needs of your ministry. You're handwriting thank you notes, you're sending hundreds of emails, you're communicating with different departments. So what we want to do with automation is think through how we can make what you do easier, right? That's the point of automation. We want to take out middlemen and help you to get from point A to point B quickly. So the first thing with actually thinking through your process, what you'll want to do is sit down and write out your current process. It's a little bit of a manual step, but actually writing your process down on paper will help you think through all of the necessary steps that you do every day. A lot of times you do these things by muscle memory. You've been doing them for a long time. You're experienced in what your ministry needs and when it needs it. So actually sitting down and taking stock of everything that's going into your process will help you think through the optimization part. So the best place to start in writing out your process is to think about the 5 W's, the who, what, where, when, and why questions. In this case, the what is the task that's going to get done at this point in your process, right? So you're going to think of each task that happens in your process. You're going to write those down as individual pieces. The who is who's going to be completing that task. So it could be a staff member or an applicant. Where is talking about where the task is completed, as in, are you going to your emails? Are you making a call to your finance department? Are you the finance department and you're making updates in your database? And so on. When is going to refer to when the task is taking place in the flow of events, right? At what stage in the process does this task happen? Is it at the beginning, in the middle, at the end? So these first 4 questions have direct connections to how we can use SiteStacker. If I go to the next slide, we'll see an update. In SiteStacker, the what, the answer that we have to that question, is going to be the task that we create. The who is going to be the role that we assign to that task. The where is going to be the web page that task is completed on. It could be the front end, it could be the back end of your system. And then the when is the flow of events that we want to keep track of. So once you've written down your process, actually thinking that through will help you think about why you're doing each of those steps in the first place. So in your current process, is this step necessary? Or are we doing it because there's limitations with the current tools that you have? Has it just always been done this way? Maybe we've been doing it a long time. It feels like muscle memory. Or maybe it really is an efficient part of your process that you've honed through the years. It's good to really take the reasoning for each step of your process down as you consider how we're going to revise your current process. So when you're thinking through revising your process, one of the biggest pain points that people run into is it can be hard to update a process that you've had in place for a long time, right? Everyone's used to it. It might seem easier to just stick with your process than to make updates. You've been doing it for a long time, it works, but automation, a key piece to that is that sometimes it takes a long period of planning and thought shifting at the beginning of an automation process. But then when you take the time to really think through your process and how it could be improved in the long run, it really is going to pay dividends by providing a clean process to you that's less cumbersome to your team and helps you save your resources and your time. In addition to revising based on efficiency, as you're thinking through your process, always think through how you can revise your process based on SiteStacker itself, right? So SiteStacker is a tool for you to use in your own way. Its specialty is improving efficiency, and it does that with automation by creating interfaces that automatically collect data, it automatically stores that data, and it automatically presents that data to the people that need to see it. Automating in SiteStacker does go just beyond the Motion 2 component, which is what a lot of our training will focus on. But there are so many pieces to SiteStacker that can all play a role in automation. So for example, we've got a list here. Motion 2, like we said, that's where we're going to build our workflows. That's where we're going to build the forms that will actually be filled out. And that piece will be helping us in our data collection and helping us in connecting that data to the right pieces of SiteStacker. Spark also can be used to create automated event-based triggers. Data groups are lists that we create to use in our data collection process. CRM is used for data connection. Fields for our forms are created in CRM, and then we save those fields to CRM records. Site Planner also plays a role. That's a lead source. That's where the applicants can come and submit forms, where they can interact with your organization. And then the dashboard really helps your team manage your data, manage interaction with contacts that are coming in, and it allows you to connect your data and visualize it. Reports also help with that in data visualization. So as you're collecting data through your automation, you'll be able to use that to gain insights and statistics on pretty much any piece of data that you are collecting. So that being said, automation is a big picture process. It's necessary to think about how you're going to capture data, store the data, and look at how you're going to use that data. You may have heard Danny use this phrase in previous webinars, SiteStacker provides data collection, data connection, and data visualization. All of these tools in SiteStacker are used for different parts of that process, and they work together to create a holistic automated process. So it's very beneficial to keep all three of those points in mind as we consider automation. Okay. So we've thought through your process, we've written it down, we've answered the 5 W's, the who, what, where, when, and whys for each task that's happening in your process. The next part is that we're going to go through and begin building your process in SiteStacker. So we're going to touch on a lot of those tools that we just mentioned. For my example, I'm going to create a basic interest form. So I've got my answers to the who, what, where, and when here. For my interest form, what I want to do with this is I want anyone that's interested in serving with my organization to be able to come and fill out this form and share some information about themselves so I can find out if they're a good fit and gain some insights on the type of folks that are interested in serving with us. So that's the why for the interest form. That's a point I don't have here. But the who is going to be the contact. The contact is going to be the one that submits an interest form. And then my other who is going to be the admin. The admin is going to review the contact's information. So the what, let's say I sat down and I decided, hey, I really want an interest form to be the first piece, but then I don't want to stop there. I want my admin to be able to review that interest form. That's going to be the second what, or the second task that I create in my workflow. And then we have where. So the contact is going to go to the website to fill out the form. And then the admin is going to go to their dashboard to review the form. The when is just the flow of events. So it makes sense for the contact to submit the interest form. And then as soon as that happens, the admin will be able to review it. All right. So the first place in SiteStacker that we're going to start in is Motion 2. This is the component where we build our workflows. It allows us to create our forms, our tasks that trigger other tasks or notifications. And it's how we're going to do our data collection and our data connection, those two pieces from earlier. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to go into Motion 2, and we're going to right-click the Workflows folder and add a new workflow and name it. So I just want to explain what we're going to do first before I show you a clip of the walkthrough. So here we're just navigating to Motion 2. On the left here, you're going to have a list of all of the workflows that live in Motion. You can right-click and add a new one and give it any name that you want. And we'll just call this one interest form and keep it simple. And then when you create your new workflow, it's just going to sit in the list of your workflows on the left. Okay, so we have our workflow. The very next thing that we should do is add the roles to our workflow, and that's the who's that we've been talking about. When we look at the Motion 2 component, there's going to be a primary roles section and a secondary roles section. Primary roles, those are used for external roles, as in anyone that is not a part of your organization, but might be interacting with your workflow. So in our case, it's going to be the contact. They're going to be the one that's kicking off the workflow. This might be their first time interacting with your site, so they may not even have a CRM record in your system yet. And then secondary roles is for internal roles. That's going to be your staff members. In our case, it's going to be our admin that has the ability to review. the interest form. So over here, we're back in motion. We have the primary role section. We just get to right click and add a role. And we can name the role whatever we want. I'm going to name this one contact. And here it's important to check that the contact is the main role. They're the one that's kicking off the workflow. They're going to be the subject of the workflow. And then here we'll do the same thing. We're going to create an admin role. And whenever you have a secondary role, they're always going to be attached to a user group. So I already have an interest forms admin user group. Here I'm just indicating that I want the admin role to be associated with that user group. Okay. So the next thing we'll do, and this is kind of for organization, we're going to put landmarks into our workflow. So landmarks are just organizational folders. It kind of depends on how you want to organize your workflow for how you actually build these out. My little workflow, I think it will work to organize my folders by role. So here we've got the workflow. We'll just right click and choose add landmark. And then we can give our landmark a name. It's not necessary, but a best practice is to start with a landmark that's just marked for all tasks. And then within that landmark, we'll add additional ones. So I'll add this first one for the contact and hit save and close. And then we'll do it again so we can have a landmark for admin tasks and save and close. So now we have both landmarks within our all tasks landmark. And that just gives us a good starting place to keep our tasks organized and to keep the flow of events clear. Okay. So now we're going to add the tasks to our workflow. These are the whats. Of course, I'm going to be creating the interest form task because that's going to be how the contact starts the workflow. They're going to fill that out. We're going to assign the correct role to the task. We're going to title the task. And then sometimes we need to check a configuration that allows CRM data to be pulled into the form. So I'm going to come to the contact landmark and choose add task. And we're going to choose a form task. And then we get to choose the role that we want to be assigned to this task. We give the task a title and save and close. And then we're going to do the same thing for the admin task because I chose to have a review interest form task. So we choose admin, we give it a title again. And then at the bottom of the admin's task, I'm going to check CRM data and save and close. And what that CRM data configuration is doing is it's going to allow any data that's saved to the contact to be pulled into the admin's task so that the admin can review it. Once the contact has filled out their interest form, we want the admin to review it. That's the next step in the process. So what we're going to do is add an assign task trigger, and it's going to be based on task completion. So we just need to right click on the task that we want to add the trigger to. We'll choose the type of trigger that we want. There are many that we can use. In this case, we're going to just stick with assign task. So just an example of that. We come to the interest form, we add the trigger. And then the source is just letting the system know, okay, we want to fire this trigger when this task is complete. So when that form has been submitted, we'll go ahead and choose which task we want to happen next, which would be the review interest form in this case. And save and close. Okay. So now we have our basic workflow in place. What we want to do now is we want to build on top of it to be able to collect all of the information that we want from the incoming contacts. So what we're going to do first is we're going to add a person field set to the form. In order to collect any information in the workflow, that information needs a place to be saved. We're going to use the person field set to connect the answers that the person submits. We're going to connect that to one of the roles in our workflow. And then additionally, we're going to add first name, last name, and email to our person field set. Those are just person fields. They're required to be able to create a new CRM record. And whenever we want to save information in our CRM, we need a record to save it to. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come to our form, going to do manage form fields. And then here we're just going to add person field set, and it allows you to choose the role. So it's going to be the contact. And then here we're going to add a person field. It's going to be that first name. And then we'll do that again for the last name and the email. Okay. So here we've got all of the necessary questions on our form. What we're going to do next is add custom data fields. So it's built out. The contact can come to the interest form and give us their name. At least that lets us know that people see our interest form and that they are interested in serving with us. But we kind of want to get to know them a little bit more. What we're going to do first is we're going to have our contact choose from a list of options. So we're going to create a couple of different types of fields. They're going to be based on data groups. And a data group is just a list that our contact will be able to choose from, and their answer will be saved to their CRM record. So here we've got our data groups component. And again, you can see how all the different pieces of SiteStacker are coming into play here. I already created a pizza toppings data group because I think that the toppings that someone chooses on their pizza says a lot about them. So they can have pineapple, no pineapple, or anchovies. Additionally, we're going to use a state data group because I want to know which states like anchovies on their pizza. So that's how we're going to set the data groups up. The next piece is we're going to add entity fields. So we have the data groups. Now we need to add fields within entities to be able to use those as questions. All right. Entities are what we use to connect data groups to the person record. So any information that the person enters will be tracked on their CRM record, and we can use that for future reporting or for statistics, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to an entity that we've created here, and we'll be going into more detail on entity groups and entities in future webinars. Here we have a couple of pieces built already. So we come to the Entities tab within CRM, and we have an interest form questions entity built, but it doesn't have any fields in it yet. So we're just going to add a new field. And what we're doing is we're looking for that pizza toppings data group that we just created. That's going to be the type of question that our contacts will answer. And then we can give it a label. And then because it's a list, because it's a data group, it can be displayed on the form either as a combo box, which is just a drop down, or it can be displayed as a series of radio groups or radio buttons. So I'm just choosing the drop down. And then we're going to do the same thing for the state. So it's just the same process. We add an entity field, and then we will find the state data group and give that a label, and then save and close. All right. So now that we have actually created the questions, we're going to go back to Motion and add those questions to our form. So we're going to right click on the person field set, and we're going to add an entity field set. In that, we're going to find the interest form entity that we've made, and then we'll be able to add those questions that we have. So here we're back in Motion. So there's a lot of jumping around. We're going to manage form fields. And then just like we added the person field set, we're going to add an entity field set. And then here's where we can scroll through all of the entities that we have in CRM, and we're going to find our interest form questions. And we just save and close that. From here, this will give us access to those data group questions that we created. So we can add favorite pizza toppings, and then we'll configure it as a combo box again. Totally up to you if you think that radio groups look better on your form. It's just kind of up to what you think looks best. And then we do the same thing and add state. Awesome. Okay. So we've got our form built out with questions. We've really done all of the necessary pieces to have a functioning workflow, but there's just so many other things that you can do with Motion. In this case, we're going to add a couple of additional triggers. So for reporting purposes, if I'm thinking about data collection, data connection, and then data visualization, I'm thinking about the whole process at once. So I'm here at the collection stage, but farther down the road, I might think, oh, I really want to report on people that love pineapple on their pizza. So I'm going to do something where I will add a record type to each contact that comes in, depending on the answer that they provide on their contact form. So that's going to use conditional logic. Triggers are able to use that. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back into Motion. And just like before, we're going to choose our task and choose a trigger. Again, it's going to be on task completion, but this time we're going to add a condition. So what I'm saying here is I want a specific field on my form to have a specific answer. So favorite pizza toppings must be exactly equal to pineapple. And then from here, if that condition is met, we can tell the system to add a record type to the contact. So we choose which role we want this record type to be applied to. We'll apply it to the contact. And then this gives us the full list of record types that we have. Ahead of time, I made a few new record types. So pineapple, no pineapple, and then anchovies. So this clip is just showing us adding the pineapple trigger, but we went ahead and added the no pineapple and anchovies as well. So whoever comes through that interest form will be able to report later on how many people wanted pineapple on their pizza, how many people have anchovies, etc. Okay. So now we actually have our forms built. It's time to publish them so they can be used. So now we're going to jump into Site Planner, where we'll just continue our data collection and then our data connection. So on the front end side, we need, the contact needs a place, obviously, to go to fill out the contact form. So we're going to publish a task sequence module, and that's just what connects Motion to our website. We're going to configure the module to look at the form that we just created, and then we'll publish that to a page. So here we're navigating to Site Planner. In the modules folder that you have in Site Planner, we're just going to create a new module. It's a specific module called task sequence. And then here in configurations, you're just going to configure the module to look at the specific workflow that we created, the landmark that has the task that we need. And then the default page is just going to be the page where this task sequence module is going to publish the form. So in this case, we created an interest form page. And this clip is going a little bit fast, but at the end there, one other configuration that we make is to check that every time this task is completed, every time this form is submitted, a new engagement in our workflow is going to be started. And then on the front end side, this is what the task sequence module is showing. So it's pulling in the interest form that we created. We've got our title up here. We've got first name, last name, and email, and then the custom questions that we added to our form. So when you're creating your form, just as a side note, it is helpful to keep this open so that whenever you're in motion and you update your form, you can just refresh the page so you can see a live version of what your form is looking like. And then they can hit submit. All right. And then we're still in Site Planner. We're not quite done with the contact because, okay, they submitted the contact form. Great, they had a place to do that. But now they need a place to end up after they submit the form. So what we want to do, typically we'll have a thank you page, right? They go ahead and submit their form. We redirect them to a thank you page that just says, hey, thanks so much for your interest. We'll reach out to you if we have any more info. So what I'm going to do here is create a redirect trigger. Like we said, there are many different types of triggers that we can choose from. So we're just seeing a few of the different outcomes that we can use. So back in motion, we're going to go to our form. And here, just like with the other triggers, we're going to add a trigger. It's going to be on task completion again. And then the action that we're choosing this time is redirect. So you can either redirect to a custom link, or we can go to our site pages and find the page that has the thank you message that we've created. So ahead of time, I had a thank you page all created. So here we've got a redirect trigger that's all set up. So on the front end side, let's say they submitted their contact form. They get redirected to the thank you. That's pretty straightforward, but there is another piece to this that we added. It's kind of a creative piece. So with those record types that we added earlier, if they submit their form and they indicated that, oh my goodness, they love pineapple, they get the pineapple record type, right? So what we're doing here, we're getting creative with Site Planner, and we actually have different text and images that show on this thank you page, depending on the record type that the person has who's viewing the page. So in this case, this person loved pineapple. They get this beautiful message here. But then conditionally, if they had chosen no pineapple, they could have a different message. Or one for anchovies, it could be, we will reach out to you because we have some concerns. But I had a lot of fun looking for pizza photos for these slides. Alrighty. Okay, so dashboard. This last piece here is continuing with data visualization. So we have made a place for the contact to interact with our workflow. Now we're going to need a place for the admin to also interact with the workflow. So in the dashboard, we have a lot of options for what we can provide to our admins for their data visualization, how they can interact with the contacts that are coming in. This is another piece that, with the whole thinking through of your process, you want to be thinking through what your team needs to see and when they need to see it, and maybe beyond that, what they haven't had access to before. What can we give them now? So with the dashboard, we'll just take a tour through some pages that we created. Typically, they'll need a task list so that they can see the contact forms that have been submitted and they can interact with those. We can have CRM grids. This time we'll filter by record types. And then we can also have custom reporting or charts and graphs that your admin can use. So here in the dashboard, here's a task list. And this is just an easy way for the admin to see all of the forms that they need to review. But we also created this tab here. So this just has a really simple CRM grid. There's other modules that can be used that can pull in different data points, but the CRM grid is nice. What we're doing here is that it's pre-filtered by record type. So it's only showing you people that have a pizza toppings record. And it can show you which ones. You can filter down to I only want to see people that love pineapple. And then additionally, we created a custom report that also brings that information in. So later on, I could say, oh, I really want to understand of the people that come to my organization, how many love anchovies, how many love pineapple, right? We've got the percentages at the bottom there. So of the 3 people that have come through the record, the contact form, 67% loves pineapple, 33 no pineapple, and so far we're good. Nobody loves anchovies. And then just a still image kind of give you a better view of the report. So anything that we pull into a contact form, into any sort of automation form, we can report on that data. So that's a really key piece to keep in mind as you think through your processes. Okay. So there really are so many different ways that SiteStacker can help you streamline your day-to-day activities. All of these can help you in the long run to save time and resources that your ministry can use in other ways. In our time so far today, we've gone through how to think through your process, how to think through possibly revising it and optimizing it. And then we dived into just a few of the different tools in SiteStacker that you can use to help you automate your process. So in this talk, we've covered just the basics of automation. There's a lot of building blocks and concepts in here. In the next session, we're going to take a deeper dive into how to automate your processes and then how to visualize the data that corresponds to those processes that we're bringing into SiteStacker. Okay, and we've got a bit of time here to answer any questions that may have come up during the talk. So we're just going to take a look through. Let's see what we can do today. So we have a question here. In the state option, did you enter each state as an option? So back in the data group, that is kind of a default data group that's already built out with many different states. You could have created a new data group, but this is one that just kind of comes with our installation. We use that a lot for location information and whatnot. Someone asks, does the CRM system keep track of all the data that comes in? Yes, that is where all of the data is stored. what's going to happen is it's going to be saved to a specific person. CRM is full of people records. So yes, as long as that data is set to be saved to a specific person, CRM will keep track of that. We have another question here. Can a trigger be used to redirect a user based on record type? So what we were doing earlier is we redirected all of the contacts to the same thank you page. And it was that thank you page that had conditional logic on it. But you could definitely use triggers to send different users to different pages if needed, depending on the answers that they give, not necessarily in a record type, but depending on the answer that they give you in the form, you would be able to send them to specific pages or even to outside websites if needed. So someone asked, where is the dashboard with all of the data collected from the forms? There is a dashboard view where if you go into dashboard, we can set up CRM profile pages. So if you were to click on someone out of a list of a whole list of contacts, it would bring you to their profile page. And a lot of times we'll use that page to set up a little tab where you can go and see all of the forms that they have submitted, and you can see the answers that they submitted on those forms that way. We'll usually link that same page in admin tasks too, so an admin has an easy way as they're completing their tasks just to go over to those profile pages and see all the data that an applicant may have submitted. Could I make the assign a record type a manual task for the admin? You could. In theory, you could make a task where the admin actually answers a question. So the admin could answer, okay, from this data group, if the admin answers pineapple, right? That could trigger the record type to be applied to the contact. So it doesn't necessarily need to be the contact that's completing that task. That's a good question. All right, and we definitely have some videos on our YouTube channel that dive deep into building workflows and building out forms. So those are some good resources that you can use. Our training site on Freshdesk will also have automation resources. And then with our webinar here, we're going to be taking more detailed looks into these pieces as well. So if you stay tuned, you'll get more resources for motion that way. So that's a good question. We have a question about asking where the conditional logic was set up for the thank you page. It was a pretty cool piece on the thank you page. What I did was I had 3 different static items. Each item had my little thank you note. Each one had that different picture. And then on the thank you page itself, we added all 3 of those static items. And then you can set permissions on each static item to only be visible to people with a certain record type. So they're actually all on the same thank you page. They're just all hidden unless whoever is looking at that page has one of those specific record types. So the dashboard is a separate site channel within your installation. So there's usually a separate login to get into your dashboard, and we can follow up with you to help you access that. Alrighty. Thank you everyone for joining. What we can do next is we can spin the wheel and see who has won the coffee package. So let me go ahead and switch over my screens. I have too many screens. There we go. Alrighty, Miss K, you won our Old Florida Coffee Co. package. So go ahead and leave your address in the chat and we'll get that sent out to you. Congratulations, I'm a bit jealous. Alrighty. Alrighty, everyone. If there were any other questions in the chat, we will follow up with you after this. And please stay tuned for the next webisode in our mini series. So thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you have a great rest of your day.